speaker from the Center, Professor Kelly Joseph, and also from the regional bank UOB, the Vice President of Sustainable Business, and also from the head of management of greenhouse gas reduction sector from the EGAT. So please proceed on the stage, the speaker. Thank you. Please give them a big hand. Woohoo! Thank you so much for being us here today and for all the audience. And I think this is a very important topic that need to be here for the whole COP, and especially thank you for being with us at the Thailand Pavilion. So I would rather put the mic and please introduce yourself. But here we have Kun Phakkawi Sinpanon, the head management of the greenhouse gas reduction sector for the EGAT. Kun Pantari Sipraiwan, the Vice President of Sustainable Business, and Professor Kelly Joseph from the University of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Kun Kot. This is my honor to be here on the Thailand Pavilion, and my topic is about the renewable energy certificate, which is maybe in the international level you already know about the RECs for more than 10 years. But for in Thailand, renewable energy certificate is just a few years that we know. So after a few years, you can see from this my presentation, you can see that this is grow up increasingly a lot in the Thai market. First of all, I would like to introduce my organization. EGAT is one of the state-owned enterprise. We have the vision to innovate power solution for a better life. We have a mission to be the country main organization to secure the power, reliability, and enhance the competitive of the nation through the innovation of the Thai people. We generate the power, electricity into the grid. For now, we have at least 16,000 megawatts of the power generator, and we purchase from the IPP, SPP around 32,000 megawatt. And we also have the electricity transmission with the MEA and PEA. And if you look at this chart, you can see this is a Thailand greenhouse gas emission trend. You can see this is quite difficult for Thai to reduce, to become. We know that Thailand already pledged that we will become the carbon neutrality in year 2050.
Would it be possible?
You can see from the picture in the energy sector. You can see that we still have the increase of the greenhouse gas emission. And most of them come from the power sector. And also, Thailand also have launched Thailand long-term low greenhouse gas emission development strategy. We set up the target that in the year around 2050, we will become carbon neutrality. We will have 50% of the renewable share in the electricity in the grid. But if you look another one, is a picture of in the power sector. It's also the same. We expect to have 50% of the renewable energy in the grid in the year 2050. EGAT, as we are the state-owned enterprise, we know that we cannot do alone. So we're looking for some scheme that we can help us to reduce use of the fossil fuel. So we're looking for some scheme that to introduce the renewable energy into the market. And we believe that renewable energy is the way. So we introduced the renewable energy certificate or RECs into the market in the year 2020. We EGAT as here this is a picture. EGAT as a Thailand local issuer of the the international REC standard. We become the IREC issuer. And we, like the capacity building, we educate the people. We tell them that what is the REC come from and where this REC can use for them. And you can see from this picture, after the year 2020, the RECs in Thailand, the REC issuer in Thailand, in the year 2020, the REC issuer in Thailand is about just 10,000 RECs in that year. But after a few years that we introduced the RECs to the market, like demand, they meet the supply. The Thai market, they emerge. The number of the REC issue in Thailand growing up a lot from the 10,000 to become a million in the year 2022. And for this year, we believe that maybe that become to 10 million RECs issue in this year.
Wow. ค่ะ
First of all, we believe that not only the EGAT can build every renewable power plant. So we're looking for how to way that to like the investor to invest in the renewable energy. The RECs is the benefit for them. If they build the renewable energy, maybe not only they can sell the power to the grid, they can get the benefit from the REC certificate. They can sell the REC certificate to the end user, to the people who would like to use the clean energy. For the end user, it's easy for them to connect to the clean energy. In the past, maybe they have to set up their solar rooftop or they have to set up their organization close to the renewable power plant. But for now, when they have REC certificate, they just buy the certificate. So it's easy for them.
Can I ask, like,
Yep,
what
sure.
kind of scale? Like, are you talking about like a big power plant, or can I just do for my house?
No, you can do for your house.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So that's why I said for the REC certificate, it's easy for the end user and it make the benefit for the investor. So we believe that when demand and the supply, they can meet together.
Yes.
They can reach the market of renewable energy in Thailand. It not need to invest more renewable energy. Let the market do it themselves.
Yes. This is a real partnership that.
Yeah, something
yes.
like that.
Okay.
And not only the local issuer that it can become, it can also develop the project. Last year, we have the project that we call 24/7 CFE. We introduced the platform to issue RECs to the end user, like in hourly. We matching the demand and supply of RECs each hour. Normally in Thailand, we use the RECs like in yearly. We match year by year. But this project, we match the number of use of RECs and the demand in hour. So, yep, sure.
Yes.
This is just a pilot
This
project.
is the discussion. So please jump in.
I was just going to ask, that was one project, or this was a number
This
of
is a
projects?
pilot project. We have the 3 customers to try in this project. Yeah, but you know what? It's not easy for us because we know that the renewable energy is too difficult to say that which one, where they can generate. So we have to input many of the power of the RE generator into the project for support. Just only 3 customers. Yeah.
What's the scale of that 3 customers?
Just only 1,000, 10,000
Yes.
megawatt hours per year.
Okay.
10,000 megawatt hours per year. So it's
Very
few.
small, but
Yeah,
it's
very
a
small.
good start.
But we have to put
Yes.
8 hydro power plant into that project.
Wow.
Wow.
Very
That's-
challenging job.
Yeah. But you can see what if we would like to do more,
Yes.
maybe we have to increase more of renewable energy.
Perfect.
Yeah, sure.
So how much hydro generation do you have, and are you looking at doing more hydro in order to enable the 24/7?
For 24/7, right? Now we put 8 project is about 1,000 megawatt, something like that. Yeah. But like I said, we can know when they generate the electricity.
Yes.
Yeah. And another thing that will happen in the Thai market. Now, the Ministry of Energy in Thailand, next year we will launch we call the utility clean tariff. The short name is UGT. It's a new way. It's a new tariff for Thai people. In the next year, maybe you can buy REX, include in your electricity bill. And REX is we call it in bundle in the bill.
Is it going to be more expensive?
A little bit.
Oh my
but
God.
Easy for them. But
Yes.
easy for the investor.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we're willing to pay if it's coming from the green
And you
energy.
can get the green certificate.
Ah, okay.
You can make sure that
Yes.
your energy that you
It's
use
clean.
energy is clean. Yeah.
Perfect. Any more comments from the finance sector and from the economic side, from the policy side?
I'm just wondering, is the tariff is part of the Climate Change Act as well, or is different?
Not yet. The UGT is just one project of the Ministry of Energy. Yeah. And that is the end of my presentation.
Yes. So thank you so much. Can we give a hand to Kun Pakawi and a big effort on Thailand to be net zero in 2050. So it's probably 28 years from now, and we are still going to be so alive, right, to see that achievement. So let's now get back to Professor Kelly Joseph. She's more on the policy side and see kind of global scale of how this energy transformation would happen. And please give us your wisdoms about this. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Joseph. I'm from the U.S., from the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and talk to you all today. I don't have a prepared presentation, but what I wanted to do is talk to you a little bit about the work that I do and how I'm thinking about enabling entities like EGAT to get to a zero carbon future or a net zero future. So what I think about let me just say also, I've worked, my work now is mostly focused on the U.S., but I have worked internationally, and I've thought about some of these issues in the electricity sector more globally. But I will say that one of the things that happens in a lot of places, the U.S. in particular, but not just the U.S., is there's, I think, a mismatch sometimes between policy targets and how grid reliability or how the grid actually operates. So what happens day to day on a grid, what grid operators are doing and how the lights stay on, is that they're matching generation and demand second to second, which is really challenging. In order to make sure that you have reliable grid operations, you have to make sure that you have enough generation to meet demand at all times. And to do that, that requires generation resources that are available to grid operators, that are dispatchable to grid operators. And then in many places, they also have reliability requirements. So they have to have not just the amount of generation that's needed to meet demand, but you have to have some generation in reserve in case there's something that happens on the system so that you can call on additional generation resources. So when you get to a system that has a lot of renewable resources, which is not yet what you're seeing in Thailand, but in a lot of places where you're setting renewable targets and you're seeing more renewables on the system, what we just talked about as far as the 24/7 and the matching is challenging because obviously you can't have solar generation when the sun is not out. You can't have wind generation when the wind is not blowing. If you have hydro, that's fantastic because it's a little bit more consistent. But what happens, it's not that we can't manage reliable grid operations with renewables, but we really have to think about what it takes to integrate those resources. So there are new reliability standards that are being developed to think about what are called inverter-based resources. So these are resources that operate differently from the typical generation resources like coal or natural gas. They have different ways of operating, but they also have different times of the day when they're available. So when they're not available, you have to make sure that you have other types of resources that are there to provide energy. And one of the things that's really necessary are really quick start, fast ramping resources. So these are resources that either are already online and they're not generating at their full capacity and they can very quickly ramp up when the sun goes down or when the wind isn't there. Or they're resources that aren't yet operating, but they can very quickly get up to speed. So there are kinds of resources that do that. Batteries are one example. So there's a lot of focus on deploying a lot of batteries in order to integrate renewables. Gas is actually another type of resource that is very quick start, fast ramping that can help integrate renewables. So that's a little bit about grid reliability and what it takes second to second, day to day to operate a system, which is a little bit different from the planning of the system. So the planning of the system takes place over a longer time period, and what you want to make sure is that you're planning for the kinds of resources that enable day-to-day operation. So when policymakers are setting targets, one of the things that I think is important is to have some kind of connection between the targets that are being set and the entities that are responsible for keeping the lights on, right? Which doesn't always happen. And I think if we had that a little bit more, number one, I think we could set targets that enable us to plan for the kinds of resources that are needed today, what's available today, right? We're scaling up batteries, we're scaling up renewables, but keeping on potentially the kinds of resources that enable clean generation today, like nuclear or hydro, while we're getting to the point where we can have a lot more batteries. And the challenge in a lot of places is going to be we do probably need to have gas for quite some time until we have enough batteries or some other kind of technology that can replace it. And so those are the kinds of policy challenges that are, I think, growing and something that I would like to see there be, more coordination between those entities. So one of the things that I also think about, in addition to thinking about how we can actually coordinate better, with the entities that are responsible for grid reliability, with policymakers, is also thinking about how do we enable financing for the kinds of resources that, number one, are needed today, and number two, that can actually enable the full decarbonization of the sector. So to really get to a full decarbonized sector, we need things that can handle potentially additional gas that's still on the system, right? If we didn't have sufficient amounts of batteries, or even if we have a lot of batteries and we still have a tiny amount of gas that's needed, right? We still need some kind of technology to abate the emissions from those gas resources that remain. And a lot of times in the finance community, what happens is they're focused on thinking about how to de-risk investment, of course, but a lot of times they're focused on de-risking investment just for the pilot technology itself. So thinking about, I get a pilot going, I can demonstrate and show that this technology works, that helps to de-risk the investment in the technology. But to actually deploy some of these technologies and really scale them up, if you have a lot of coal on the system, you're probably likely to need some kind of carbon sequestration, right? Or if we want to transition away from gas and rely on something like hydrogen, or, for example, in order to enable hydrogen to actually get to the plants, right? You can build a hydrogen facility, but you still have to think about how you transmit that, how that actually, gets transported to the assets. So there's an entire ecosystem of infrastructure that's needed alongside just that technology. And what I would like to see is the attempt to kind of de-risk the investment in actual scaling and deployment of the kinds of resources that are needed to really fully replace fossil assets. And I think one of the ways to do that is to have this kind of policy coordination where you can say, from the grid operator perspective, there's a reliability need for an asset like this, and there's a reliability need for an asset like this over here. And think about how to plan for and enable those kinds of technologies. One of the ways to do that is to say, yes, there's a need for this resource, and we can help hopefully de-risk the investment associated with putting the infrastructure for those resources that are needed to fully replace fossil. So those are the kinds of things that I think about, and it's a challenge in the U.S., but it's a challenge more broadly. It's a challenge globally to think about how do we scale up renewables, how do we scale up batteries, and then how do we scale up financing for the kinds of resources that can fully replace fossil assets.
Thank you so much, Professor Kelly, to give us a big picture of how challenging EGAT is confronting. Please give her a big hand. But right before we go into the climate, to the finance sector, can I ask both of you back? Is REC the system it's actually gonna fit to all of these challenges and all this the landscape that you mentioned, the ecosystems.
Yeah, so this is why I was asking questions about the 24/7, right? So that's the challenge with thinking about bringing on renewables and thinking about, you know, a lot of companies or a lot of individuals want to set targets and say, you know, I brought on this solar plant, I brought on this wind asset, and I therefore, you know, should get the benefit associated with bringing on that plant. The challenge in grid operations is that you really can't control where the electrons flow, right? So what grid operators are doing is managing the flow of those electrons and trying to manage the flow of those electrons reliably. So they're thinking about, you know, how the transmission system is operating. They're thinking about, as I said, how much generation is available. And it's in order to say, you know, my building of this solar plant or my building of this wind plant enables me to fully offset my emissions, you have to be able to say 24/7 your electricity use is actually matched by that resource. And as I described, if the sun is not shining or the wind is not blowing, that's not an accurate description. So thinking about the 24/7 piece is really challenging for grid operators, and it's a growing focus to think about RECs, and in the U.S. we're starting to talk about what are called time differentiated RECs. So you can say, you know, from this block of time, you know, my REC has this value, or from this block of time it might be a little bit less, unless it's backed up by something like hydro or a battery or something else that you can actually say, you know, this asset fully enabled that. So
I agree with you. The reliability is one of the challenge from the renewable energy. For now, for EGAT, we try to we like a pilot project of the hydrogen and the battery, and we also now we set up the we call the RE prediction control center to estimate what is RE will generate in the near future, that to provide the information that we can predict and estimate the number of the power generation in our RE generation. Yeah. So that the reliability is one of the challenges.
I really love this conversation. It's really get to like the bones of how these things is really working. So now, please give the floor to Kun Phakaviนะคะ. Oh no, sorry. Pantari. Yes. For her to really kind of see of this kind of, let's say, challenging, and how can the finance sector can actually fit in and help us go through this pathway.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pantari Siripraiwan, Vice President of Sustainable Business from UOB Thailand. Thank you for having me. It's the first time for UOB Thailand to join the COP event. I'm very honored, and what I'll say today is how financial institutions like UOB can help transitioning the business and the country to reach net zero through our sustainable finance. Yeah. So let's get to know a little bit more about UOB. We are a regional bank. UOB has been operating in Thailand for over 20 years now. We employ over 6,000 employees to serve 2.4 million customers. And just about last year, we complete the acquisition of the Citibank consumer business. And we are the second largest foreign bank in Thailand, and with the second largest foreign bank in Thailand and the seventh largest commercial bank in Thailand. So when it comes to sustainability, we are very committed, and we have a very challenging set of targets. We commit to net zero by 2050. In fact, we already reached carbon neutrality since 2021. For the net zero, we have 6 sectors that are our target. 3 of them are in the energy sector, so they are energy, automotive, and oil and gas. And the other 3 are in the built environment, so you have real estate, construction, and steel. So the reason that we choose these 3 sectors are because they accounted for over 60% of our portfolio, and they emit high GHG emission. So we take in that priority into account and set the commitment to these 6 sectors. And we just launched our first year of progress report for our net zero, and all of the 5 sectors show that our performance are still under the reference pathway. That means we're still on track to net zero. So that's the first start, good start for us. So when we talk about Thailand, we need to know like what needs to be done so that the Thailand can reach carbon neutral in 2050. We already like our target year already 15 years or 20 years behind the global. So what needs to be done? So this study shows it's from the case for Southeast Asia. So they study a comprehensive set of policies and mechanisms and also financing instruments to look into what needs to be done in the particularly energy sector. They look at the power and transportation and also industry, and also show the various activities in the short term, medium term, and long term, and also estimated amount of greenhouse gas that can be reduced, as well as the amount of investment needed to really drive this industry so that we can get the scenario that we reach carbon neutrality by 2050. And a lot of policymakers, the regulators, they have already established the policy level. For example, I believe the National Energy Plan also have the target to have 50% of renewable energy by 2050. And we have also the target for EV 30 by 30, whereby they want to have 30% of EV by 2030, and also the 100% of EV by 2050, I believe. Yeah, so a lot of momentum in the regulator side are there, and the bank as well. So the bank has been very active lately, especially the Bank of Thailand and also the Thai Banker Association. So they come together and establishing a foundation for sustainable banking. They have issued the standard practice for bank to take into account of environmental and sustainability risks. And recently they also just initiated another work stream whereby the Bank of Thailand aim for all the DC bank, the domestically systematically important banks in Thailand, to have at least one sector and have transition plan to do by next year, by the end of next year. So that's very challenging.
I'm wondering, like, this is so much numbers, but to really achieve the goal, how much more fund EGAT? Okay, let's start from Thailand. EGAT imagine that we probably need to put into the systems. It's probably not going to come from our bill of electric cities, right?
I have to say that normally when in Thailand, when we like set up the price of the electricity,
Yes.
we calculate many of the fossil fuels, operation costs, maintenance costs, something. All of them include to become the electricity
Bill.
price. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I actually I would like to have some question about this one because of have you ever think about like the funding for the mega project of the government?
Yes.
Because you know what, if we would like to invest in some like CCS or CCUS, it may cost you about 10,000 million baht
10,000 million baht.
for just
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
And is UOB going to support that, or we need to go to the World Bank?
Yeah,
Or
that
what
is
kind
very
of bank
challenge
are
for
we
us.
looking
Yeah.
for?
Yeah.
Yes.
Something like that.
A great client ever.
Yeah, we can definitely help in that area. It's our expertise. Yeah. Yeah, as Kun Phakawi mentioned, for the energy sector, we have to consider three things: the affordability, the sustainability, and also the security. Right now, we are quite secure in terms of energy supply, but we still lack the sustainability in terms of the more renewable energy in the system, and also the affordability. As last I heard, they're still like discussing about the price of electricity going up. So that's still an ongoing issue that we have to solve. And so with this, how can bank help to facilitate the movement, the momentum of promoting the green and responsible and sustainable loan to clients. So we come up with our 6 sustainable financing frameworks. The frameworks that particularly focus on the energy would be the sustainable building, the green building framework, which focus on we cover 8 asset class. It can be data center or commercial, residential, hospital, restaurants. So we have a list of certification or green label for different type of assets and also specify which level that is acceptable for green. Just to make sure that, in fact, all of our frameworks have been verified by the second party opinion. So to make sure that it's not greenwashing, so that to make sure that our eligibility criteria are solid for consider green, right? And the second one is the smart city.
Can I stop at the greenwashing a bit?
Yeah.
Professor Kelly, how can we make sure that all this policy or this initiative of this emission is not a greenwash from your perspective and from the global perspective?
Yeah, so one of the things that's happening in the banking sector is starting to think about categorizing and recognizing financed emissions, climate risk, right? So these are various mechanisms, these frameworks and these validation frameworks are ways to think about measuring what it is that banks are lending into and to measure and quantify the emissions associated with that lending. So there are international frameworks for that. And there are, various levels of how banks are actually implementing those various frameworks. But right now, a lot of this is voluntary. This is not necessarily something that is mandated yet in a lot of places. And thinking about, where to focus investment, where to think about, targeting lending. Is challenging, right? There's lots of ways to do it. There's lots of places you can put money. But again, that's why I come back to thinking about how do you connect, what are the reliability challenges associated with the transition and how can you help de-risk some of that investment and say, this is definitely targeted towards managing climate risk. This is definitely targeted towards managing those financed emissions and thinking about it differently.
Thank you.
And sometimes, like the better choice is the harder one to do. So we oftentimes get some cases where clients think that our criteria is too hard or too difficult. They just go to others. That's also valid in their point of view, but we still believe in the real impact that we create, and so that no one else can claim that we are greenwashing. Yeah.
Perfect. And in a little while, I will turn the questions back to the audience. So please feel free to have some questions to ask these 3 experts. Yes, continue.
Okay, yeah. So the second framework that I'm going to talk about is the Smart City Sustainable Framework. So this one pretty much focuses on the ecosystem needed to promote the smart city. For example, the energy efficiency, the clean transportation, renewable energy, they're all under this framework. And we also have series of products that focus on these things. For example, we have U Energy focusing on the ecosystem of promoting energy efficiency. And another one is U Solar, where we focus the entire ecosystem to promote solar generation and also the solar consumption. And the last one is the U Drive, where we create the ecosystem for EV. Yeah. And the last one that also relate to the energy topic for today is the transition framework. This one we launched just last year. And so this framework is pretty much focused on helping the sectors that hard to abate. So for example, like mining, oil and gas, steel. So these sectors, if they go to the bank and they ask for green loan, it's not really eligible for them. But they cannot be left behind also. So that's why this framework is very valid for those sectors to really transform them and prevent the carbon lock-in so that we can all transform and like transition to net zero.
Yes, minings and many more. Can I back to the EGAT, the questions a bit, and I will put to the audience. There are so many like unsustainable source of energy that we are using in our nations. How would you shut it down and transition? Can you give us some example of is it a dam or it's like a mining site or yes?
Actually, I have to say that in Thailand, we have the Thailand Power Development Plan. So for now, the Thailand Power Development Plan is follow the Thailand policy. We have adjust the PDP, Thailand Power Development Plan, like every few years. And this plan adjust, follow the Thai policy. In that plan, you can see many of the renewable energy put in the plan and change every time the power development plan. So that's why, and EGAT as a state-owned, we follow that plan.
But still, we still have a big goal of 2050.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay.
That's why I said that we
Okay,
introduce
we can
the REX.
sleep
Yeah, we
deeply
introduce the
every
REX
night.
to the market, and we believe that REX can build up the market by themselves.
Okay, yes, perfect. Okay, now back to the audience. I got the questions here and the other one. Okay, we have 4. Okay, just 2 first and then later on 3, yes.
Hi, thank you for this panel. I have a quick question about hydrogen, just because we're hearing so much about it. Green hydrogen, gray hydrogen, blue hydrogen, brown hydrogen. Does it play, is it in Thailand and the United States' plan? How does it look to you? How do you feel about that as a transitional energy source? And I guess, is it something that you're looking to finance as well? And where is it in the landscape of all of your research? Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about in Thailand for EGAT. We also believe that hydrogen may be the next future of the energy. Now we have the pilot project to invest in the hydrogen. And as you know, for now, hydrogen is still very high cost for Thai. So just like a small pilot project, if it's cheaper, maybe we can invest more for the hydrogen in the next future. But if you look at the Thailand long term, you can see we put like hydrogen energy efficiency into the plan.
Anyone want to add on this question? We have 4 more. Maybe here from the youth here.
Hi, thank you very much to all 3 of you. Sure. Hi, my name is Diana. I'm from Malaysia. I work in the electricity sector. So my question is more for Ms. Pantari and Professor Joseph. So when we talk about energy transition, there's going to be a big cost aspect, and naturally, some banks may have to absorb. Some banks may have to come to the terms with the fact that these investments may impact the P&L of the banks. So I think, how do we kind of reconcile between wanting clean energy but also making sure that the banks still, still meet the demands of their shareholders? So what's the conflict there?
I love how you asked about conflict. Yes.
Yeah, so for UOB, our transition finance framework is, as I said before, to prevent greenwashing, we establish a clear standard for this framework, is that we require clients to have a clear transition pathway, and that their target has to be approved by globally recognized, like SBTi or something. And their pathway, it can be global pathway, national pathway, or local national pathway, but it has to be approved by the government. So if clients have those criteria tick, then it's okay. It fits the standard. Also, if we have some kind of like a window period for them to take this initiative to implement the transition plan as well. So it's not like a yes and no. We still have a room for them to really commit to their plan. Yeah.
Yes, your question and the answer is somewhat very abstract for me as well. But I just feel that we need to really see the real clients and what kind of the business, and they really dive deep into and how they're going to transform as well.
Yeah. So because nowadays almost everyone announced themselves as
Yes.
commit to net zero, commit
Is
to
that
net zero by this
greenwash?
and this. But sometimes it's a good start to announce yourself that you have this strong commitment, but what have to follow next is the implementation, the action plans, the short, medium, long-term target. So they should have a clear set of actions as well. Not just say, oh, I'm going to get there, but you don't have milestone, how to run there, how if you walk
think
there.
we heard a lot of that stories, especially in COPs, right? So yeah, I think the great thing is the partnership, of course, in the positive way, and also how the civilians or how the youth can watch all this movement as well. Yeah. Professor Kelly ก่อนไหมคะได้ค่ะ
I was going to answer your question and answer the hydrogen question at the same time because it's kind of a related challenge, right? So how do we think about how do we think about where to put money? How do we think about incentivizing and making sure that people have know where to put it, know what's necessary? And it's great that in Thailand you have a national target, right? You actually have a national goal that you're attempting to reach. That's not the case everywhere. And even in the United States, we have targets, but we don't actually have a plan, right? Like we don't have a national plan. So we have incentives, right, that are out there for various types of technologies, but we don't. Yeah. So one of the things that is challenging with hydrogen is that, as I was saying before, right, there's a lot of focus on de-risking the technology itself and putting pilot projects to demonstrate that the technology works. But to enable that technology to actually be used in the power sector or be used in the industrial sector, you have to be able to get hydrogen to places, right? So you need an infrastructure for hydrogen as well. And there's a lot of challenges with hydrogen because we don't know. The idea is that perhaps it can go through existing gas pipelines, but you can only blend a certain amount, right? Right now it's like 15, 20%, maybe a little higher in some places. So do we need entirely different kinds of pipelines? Do we need an entirely different kind of way to think about transporting hydrogen, right? These are really hard problems. So when people set 2050 targets or 2040 targets, that's part of the reason why, because we just don't have commercial technology that enables us to get there today. So we have to think about how do we de-risk the investment in the technology itself, but also in the infrastructure needed to actually enable these targets to be something that we can reach. It could be hydrogen, it could be long duration storage, it could be advanced nuclear. There's a lot of technologies that we're looking at that we think could be the solution, but we need a plan to say this is the target, and we need to really think hard about how do we target investment, target policy, and think about de-risking the investment in those resources.
Well, we got 3 more questions to go, so yes, hang on with us. Yes, can you introduce yourself and then briefly the question? Stand up, please. Yes.
I'm Professor Erdogan from Baghdad University. I want to ask, even with an increasing of population, did you think that sustainable energy is enough in the future? That's number 1. And what about the CO2 emission? Okay, thank you.
So increasing electricity usage is I think that's part of why I'm thinking about policymakers need to talk to reliability planners, because we're talking about electrification targets for transportation. We're talking about electrification targets for heating. So we're really talking about increasing the demand on the electricity system. And we're already seeing it with technologies like hydrogen that takes a lot of input, right? So one of the challenges is thinking about all these different colors for hydrogen, because you want to make sure that the production itself is clean, right? Or thinking about how you manage that, and that's a lot of electricity use in addition to thinking about transforming all these other sectors.
คุณพักขวี do you have something to add on this? Okay, can next. Oh, sorry. That's it. Professor, we can't hear you. Just.
Thank you for scientific panel, but I want to ask, and if there is the increasing in building, even increasing in population, are sustainable energy in all the countries enough for the treatment of the climate change?
Well, I think your question is very unsolvable because if you're asking me, will Thailand will stop developed? It's like the same questions. And I think that's such a challenge to the whole nation that we are here together. But we're going to increase our population. The government just want us to give more birth. It's not enough human right now. So I think there's so many conflict right now. Yeah, so I think we try our best to put these three into picture, but I don't think we have a very clear answer yet. But let's move to another questions, and then we also come back and answer these questions as well. Okay, but yes, it's such a very unsolvable questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Ting. I'm from Malaysia. Actually, I wanted to ask a little bit more about transition finance because I think one of the biggest challenges is that everybody has a net zero target, but there's a question of what is a credible transition plan, and nobody really has an answer that right now. So, Kun Patari, I was wondering, how does UOB overcome that challenge, right? First thing is, do you support your clients who don't have a transition plan yet? Do you give them advice on what a credible transition plan is? And then you mentioned that they need to have a plan with an approved target. Do you set those targets for them? Or if they don't have that target, then how does it go? Do you give them rebates if they meet those targets? Thank you.
Yeah. So for the transition finance, as I mentioned, we have the list of acceptable pathway. It could be global, it could be regional. For UOB, our sixth sector is based on the regional. So because it's fit with our market and exposure. For client, it depends. It really depends. So we have a list of acceptable reference pathway. They can choose whatever they want as long as it is applicable to them. And in terms of the target, it has to we wish that it should be approved first, so to make sure that it is science-based. Yeah. I hope I could answer your question.
Okay. Is there any other speaker want to answer these questions? Or okay, probably not last one, but the question from youth.
Hi, my name is Akira Triviswabit. I'm from Thailand. My question is, in order for Thailand to have net zero emission, which type of renewable energy source do you think is the most stable and could be the most successful for Thailand?
Again, please.
In order for Thailand to achieve a net zero emission, which source of renewable energy source do you think is the most stable and could be the most successful for Thailand?
Okay. We can't say that renewable energy alone can answer that question. For Thai, if you look at the Thailand long-term strategy plan and Thailand, you will see a lot of many projects that we put in the plan, like reforestation, renewable energy, and hydrogen. So we have to do together, not only the renewable energy and not only the EGAT. I have to say that Thai people have to do it together. Not renewable energy may not be the right answer for that.
It's a very good answer. That it's like not a one answer kind of questions, but it's just all the sector we just have to come together to. It's not sun.
I have
right?
some example.
Yes.
To show. For EGAT, we are the biggest power producer in Thailand. We emit a lot of greenhouse gas emission. Even though we put many of the project to reduce our greenhouse gas emission, it's not enough. So that's why we have to look for another way, another scheme to do. We do not stop to looking for the new way.
Yes, and I think it's very back to the professor that there's no single answer for this question. This is great. We can get maybe one last question. This is a very, I think, very knowledgeable, heartfelt kind of problems that we all here together. Is there any last question from the audience before we close this session and about? Okay, I think we probably have a good. So let me hear back from the stage. Maybe your final message from the sector you are from, and what can we do better, and how can we partner better? And yes, from three of you, thank you.
Yeah, I think for the bank perspective, we have our frameworks are available and solid, and we are pretty much ready to engage with clients who have interest and ready to guide them to the right direction as well. And we hope that the business can pick up this pace, the momentum of the regulator supporting from the regulator and also the financing institution as well. So I think it's really that they just have to start somewhere. There's no right or wrong way to start. So if they think that net zero is too hard, they can do the simplest thing as energy efficiency just to improve their day-to-day operation. So I think in terms of financing, we're very supportive of the sustainable loan and green loan as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kun Pantari. It seems like the banker need more hats. They have to be educator, they have to be supporter, they have to be mentor. So yes, thank you. Professor Kelly.
I think one of the things that I hope people understand is that this is a big challenge, right? This is really complicated. This is really hard. It's not just a matter of bringing on a bunch of renewable resources and we're done, right? That's your point. That it's and your point about all the different mechanisms to think about, what they're looking to lend into, what it takes to actually transition. And I think one of the things that I hope people understand is that it does take time. We have to make sure we do this reliably. We have to make sure we do this affordably. We have to make sure that making it affordable is part of making it affordable is making sure that it's not so risky to do these investments because that raises the cost and those costs get passed on to consumers. We want to make sure this is affordable, reliable, equitable. We want to make sure this is a transition that we can actually sustain.
I think we probably have to be on this together and empathy and do our best. And yeah, we're all going to get hurt, but we have to dedicate for this mission together. Yes, Kun Pakawi, final words from EGAT, the biggest and then the only electricity provider. Yes.
Okay. For EGAT, we do about the greenhouse gas emission for more than 10 years. Even though we are the biggest emitter, but we do about how to reduce our emission for more than 10 years. But you know what? If we stop emit the greenhouse gas emission for today, it's still in our
atmosphere.
Yes. For more than 1,000 or 10,000 years. So for now, you just start.
In action.
If you not start for today,
do it.
It's not enough. Yeah.
Yes.
Just do it.
It's not about only today, but it's about the karma from the past as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And another one is not the we do alone. It's not enough.
Yes,
we have
it's
to
a
go
collective.
together. We
Yes.
have to go together.
Thank you to provide the electricity for us. Give them a big hand. Woo. And last but not least, please stay with us. We're going to have good photo together, and I guarantee for that. We want